in the home of my Aunt Fleda Litty. And we have my father here today. It is New Year's Eve, 2013. Aunt Fleda was born February 26th of 1914. She will be 100 years old in about 6.5 weeks. Dad was born January 18th, 1918, and he's going to be 96 years old here in about 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks. And we have gotten together today at Aunt Fleda's house in Maryland Heights, Missouri, to talk about their remembrances of the little town of Sligo, Missouri, where they lived. They were born near there. Dad and Kathleen still live in that area, and as do me and my family, my brother, many of our cousins, relatives still live in that area. Now, at one time, Thomas Roberts, who was my great-great-grandfather, was one of the major landowners in the area. He sold the ground to the Sligo Furnace Company of Pennsylvania in 1878, where they brought together, constructed the Sligo Furnace Company. It was the longest running wood-fired smelter in the United States. It ran for 42 years continuously, starting in 1880, running up until about 1923. And Aunt Fleda and Dad both have many remembrances of that area and the goings-on there and the people who lived there. And we've been speaking with Aunt Fleda about that previously. We've brought them together now, and we're gonna more or less let them talk to each other about things they remember from that time, things that may have made an impression on them somehow. We're going to let them interview each other a little bit here, and just now they get to see each other quite often. We live about 110 miles apart, but I don't know that they have gotten together and talked about this exact subject all that much. Aunt Fleda was getting ready to tell us about what were we getting ready to talk about a few minutes ago, and now I forgot. I think you, having been up to the Sligo Hotel on the ridge above Crooked Creek.
I never was in it, but I've been up there, but I wasn't in it.
Do you recall the reason you were up there, the occasion that you were up there?
Well, there was the people that took care of it lived in a house up there.
Do you remember their name?
There was a house up there. And
do you remember their names?
These people that lived there, their daughter had got married at their home, and we were invited. But I've been up there and seen the not inside, but I've seen it. Oh, it was a wonderful building and real elaborate.
And you were up there.
Yeah.
I've been all over, inside and outside.
I know. He was hard to keep track of.
And it was pretty much your job to try to keep track of him, right?
I have to. Did you tell Dennis about you calling man that went by old hairy face?
No,
Well, tell us if you remember that.
that big soda.
Do you remember?
Yeah. That big
Oh.
soda truck had them orange shawled arms. He go by every day.
And
Maybe the pile of sprouts about that high up close to the schoolhouse. I called him a hairy face. He had a beard. He jumped out of his truck and I got scared. I thought he was coming to get me. I run down and got behind the dresser.
he
or
run
something.
and got behind the dresser.
Are there any questions that you'd like to ask each other about those times? Are there any questions that you think you might like to ask each other about those days?
I don't know. I think they've all been answered, honey. I know. And of course, Lee, you was only about 10 when we left Sligo.
Yeah, about 10 or 12.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
And
remember the time?
Dennis, you didn't know this, but when Dad said, we have to leave and go get, because we'd already rented our farm out. You know, the place was, see, that James had.
Right.
We had already rented it out. And winter was coming on, and Dad said we got to get out. So we went to the Lowe's. And
Well, he went there for work. Did he? He went there to get work,
he
didn't
got
he?
a job, him and Uncle Bert. And it was at a rock quarry, and a rock fell off and broke his foot. And him and Carl, a train stopped not too far from us that hauled coal, and when it would stop,
They lose a little
you
bit.
remember, the coal would fall. Every night they get their tow sack and go to where the coal fell. You remember that?
Well, they parked right down below us on the railroad.
Yeah.
That's why we had our heater in. Every night we'd go down and get a sack of truthful.
They kept us, and how my dad helped on to that place, I don't know. Dad, you remember when Dad wanted to go to the ball game? Lawrence Johnson was going to take him, because you sold rabbits and things to him. You remember? Yeah. And Dad wanted to go, of course, but Lawrence had come up and said, now, it won't cost you nothing to go. If you, and Dad said, now, sis, don't bring it up again. You know I haven't got no clothes to go to the St. Louis ball game. And I said to Lee, I said, honey, if you help me, we'll catch some chickens. Because the chickens belong to me and the pigs to Lee. I said, if you help me, and we'll carry them over to Cook's and sell them, and I'll order Dad some new shoes and things. So we went and caught the chickens, didn't we?
Yep.
We had chickens in both hands. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We took them chickens over there and sold them, and I made out the order for a lift and mailed it to Sears and Roebuck. them shoes, everything, new socks, come in before the ball game. He come in the night before he's supposed to leave. I said, now, I've got your pants pressed and your shirt washed and starched, and you're going to the ball game. And me and Lee took him in and showed him our shoes, and socks, and things that we'd bought for him. Do you remember?
You know, I think we got 16, 17 cents a piece for our chickens.
I don't know what we got for it, but we got enough to buy what I ordered. We walked back as proud as a peacock that we had that order off.
But his reaction when he saw that you had done that?
He cried. That's the first time I'd seen Dad cry, because he got better. Not mean to us. Oh, my. Lee sized him once. And this is the way he whipped. He sized his dad back, and the dad said, now, I'll tell you, you better run. I'm going to whip you.
To avoid whipping him. He wanted him to run off.
Yeah, he never did whip you. No, we never had a whipping. None of us ever had a whipping.
Well, I know it's
And it ain't the switch that makes a man or a lady. It ain't the switch. It's a love and kindness. Can you see a scar there?
yes.
Okay. You remember then. It was our first Christmas after Mother died. And I guess I got him a knife too, I don't remember. But anyway, Carl had the knife. And he climbed up on the side of the closet hunting a wet rock. And he dropped the knife. It hit my artery. I'll talk about blood. I had sense enough, though, to put my thumb and run to Malkeys. You don't remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. I run to Malkeys. And blood all the way up the hill. And they put me in a car, they had a car, and a sale doctor, and of course she bound me up. And I don't remember what the doctor done, but anyway, it stopped, and I had lost so much blood. Oh, it was awful. It was shooting up like it was a main artery. And Marky, the doctor told Marky not to let me go to sleep. So she stayed with me that night and kept me awake. I feel my pulse. I can always find them on the score.
Right on that skull.
Yeah.
That's something. Now, you say Ma Key. Where did they live in relation to where you lived?
It's that big
There.
house on the other side of the church, still there.
It's up at the church on the hill.
At Sligo.
That's
Yeah.
Sligo.
Yeah. And I see Lee. Now, we didn't know this. There's so much that we didn't know. But Grandma King had got a letter to our house that there was money in New York for the keys and Art Key. He come down and we found that he got the same letter. And you know, Art cussed a lot.
Was he the bow-legged one? Was Ott real bow-legged? Ott
Yeah.
Key?
And
Dad would say when he'd chase his cattle, he'd trip up and fall down. He couldn't even hardly run. He was so bow-legged.
Art said, well, it'll have to stay there. Who can go get it? You know. And I didn't know till later on when this book I got a hold of that Barb got for this lady, that he was a cousin. And I didn't find that out, see. So
So somebody had left you some money, but
Yeah.
you weren't able to get it.
yeah, we couldn't get it. Nobody could go to New York back. Well, that was for my mother died because of my well, anyway.
What
it
was
for-
what was traveling like in that area when you were a teenager?
Well, there were cars.
There were cars.
Yeah, well, I had a car. We had a car.
Well, did you ever have occasion or need to go to Salem or Steelville?
Well,
Or was most of what you needed right there in Sligo?
yeah, we could buy anything.
He had two
Or,
stores.
The company store.
I don't think
One of
it
them.
was.
And then is it
I don't
Cooksey's?
remember going. You could buy anything. Lee and I went up last Mother's Day. We went up to Arch Dunlap's store and bought her a pair of fancy garters. That's when women wore. You remember that? Yeah. Pink silk
That's before it
garters.
closed last time up on highway.
Yeah. And then another time, after Dad lost his job, we went to, I guess, yeah,
Went to Flat River after that.
uh,
Went down to Flat River.
Delos.
The Lowe's, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Dad said, if you're running out of groceries, I had to go to the store.
Now this is when you kids stayed there, and Grandpa had to leave to work, and he left you all there, left you in charge more or less.
Yeah. Well, Uncle Bart, I had lost his wife on April, Aunt Lily. And Edna, my cousin, was 2 years older than me. And
Yeah. When they was so hard, they left work at the store to go get what groceries we wanted. But Dad didn't tell Arch. He told Arch, but he went up there to get us some food. No, we did. And there's a sign on the door, no credit.
yeah,
And you thought that meant you, but it didn't mean you.
well, there was that. That's right, yeah. Yeah. So we just turned around and left.
You remember Harry Roberts?
I do.
You drug him over the hill by the hair of the head every time you get into it?
He was a bully.
Yeah, I'd have to go up and help you get off of him.
That did us. Now, this was my last year in school. Now, this was the year before Mother died. I was in the last year of school, and he was a bully, and Carl had just started, and he would get behind him and jerk him up at a net collar. So I got tired of it, and I thought, I'll fix Harry. So I got in, instead of getting in the line I was supposed to, I got behind Carl. And here he did. And I reached up, he had a whole lot of hair. I reached up to the back of his head and grabbed his hair. And I wouldn't turn loose. And everybody marched in. And I held on and kicked him all the way to the highway.
But now he was...
Our teacher was Ruth. Her name is Ruth. She stood on the steps and waited. Never said a word. And I went back up the steps. She said, "Go on and get your chair, your seat."
She knew he had it.
She's tickled to death.
She knew he had it coming.
Yeah, but
He would have been related to you, being a Roberts. Was it cousin or something?
well, my name was old cousin.
Okay.
Your school teacher's name was Stella Stites. That's the one that always draw a circle in the blackboard and make you tiptoe.
Yeah. Is she the one that beats her legs? Stella.
Well,
Yeah.
they'd tell that director he got rid of her.
Yeah, it was Stella's time.
And she called me and Morris Nelson to get into it, and I was building a rabbit trap, had a nail and a hole to put on top of the board. He come down and jumped on me. Me and him used to fight pretty quick. He's gonna cut my guts, had a flip bill and knife, he's gonna cut my guts out and show them to him. And I took that nail and stuck the board and all right there. They had to take him to get him.
Well, did you have
Oh, Lord, thanks,
something that
Dennis.
I have to ask you because I can't. I need to know these things. Around the time that your mom died, I know a few details. I think I know the reason that she died.
Yeah.
The doctor gave her an infection. And then...
You know who her doctor was?
No.
Miss Key, Art Key's wife. Which one?
Was Ott Key's wife...
I didn't hear one.
Dad thinks that Ott Key's wife...
What do they call them?
Midwife.
Midwife.
would have been the person that birthed Aunt Betty. Is that right?
I didn't understand you.
Was Ott Key's wife. And you named her a while ago.
Oh.
Was she the one that delivered Aunt Betty?
Oh, no. It was, oh, no.
I understood it was some drunken
Oh,
doctor.
no. It was Dr. He was from Salem.
That's what I thought.
No, he wasn't even there. I mean, Mulkey, until I remembered, he wasn't even there. No.
I had understood it was a doctor who...
No, the doctor didn't do his job right, I think. I don't know. See, the fact that he didn't tell you everything. No.
Well, that must have been a difficult time. I know that Norman took Grandpa's place on the railroad when Belle's funeral was. Of course, they had to have people to run the train. And Norman worked for Grandpa that day. Norman worked for Grandpa the day that your mother was buried. Do you remember going to her funeral? Did you go to her funeral?
Faintly. Just faintly.
Well, I know it's the kind of thing you tend to block out.
It,
You don't have any remembrance of that.
We didn't get to go. Me and Dennis.
I don't know. Honey, I don't know whether he went or not.
Well, Dad
It
says
was
he
preached in the church, see.
in Sligo.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
remember,
yeah.
Do you remember who the preacher was?
Yes. It's a lady. It was a lady. Oh, Hoffer.
Hofer.
Hoffer.
Hofer?
Yeah.
Well, he was a preacher Sligo
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah. And she was with me when Mother passed away.
So you were there.
Yeah. Very sweet woman. She was a Nazarene, but our church was open to any.
Did your mother tell you something when she knew that she wasn't going to live?
My mother called me to her bed. Yeah.
And what do you remember, or do you want to tell what she told you?
Yes. I went in to see my mother. My dad wasn't in there. Wasn't nobody in there, and I went in to see her. And she motioned me to come to her. I went up to her, and she said, "Fleda, I have something I have to tell you, honey." I said, "Well, what is it?" She said, I'm gonna die." I said, "Oh, Mom, you're not, you're just talking." "No," she said, "you listen, I have to go. And I've talked to God a lot. And it's not going to be easy, but you'll make it. Because God has promised me that He will see you through. My days is not over." And she wasn't crying or nothing. She was just... Sister Hopper was...
Hofer.
Hofer, I couldn't say. She was there. And I went back in the house and got down on my knees, and she prayed for me. That's why I've made it all these years. I've made it all these years.
Well, you've...
And I can tell you how good God is. It was a Christmas right in the middle of Depression, when there wasn't no work nowhere. And Christmas was coming. I went down to the cellar, that same cellar, the same cellar.
The one there at his house?
I went down to that cellar, and I got down on my knees and I prayed that God would send gifts to my little brothers and my sister. You think He did? Yes.
Tell us about that.
Here come old Uncle Bill. He's the oldest one of the Dad's family. And he lived in
William.
Cuba.
William.
He lived in Cuba.
I believe he worked
And
on. I believe he worked on the
what-
Frisco Railroad. I believe he worked on the Frisco Railroad. If
Now,
I-
Uncle Bill, I couldn't say. He probably did, but
He was a barber.
at that time
He was a barber, babe.
He
oh,
had
was he a
a,
barber?
he had a cleaner's business.
Oh,
He might have, I don't know about that. But anyway, here Uncle Bill, Christmas Eve. Bananas, oranges, nuts, and
you didn't see that
toys
stuff.
for the kids.
You didn't see a banana or an orange very often, did you? You didn't.
No, we didn't have that kind of stuff. And nuts, well, everything, there it was. It's Christmas. I can't remember what you got, but I know that you had pop guns or something. You know, you put caps on.
Yeah.
Not no big thing, but just candy and nuts. And
Well, when it's something you don't see but once a year, that's pretty special. My mom said the only time of year they ever got an orange was in their stocking at Christmas.
yeah.
And they'd get one or
Oh,
two.
yes, yeah. I hung it up. We got one orange.
And go.
You did?
Yeah. Oh, Lord, no.
Albert Litty, which we talked about a while ago. He played the fiddle. He played the fiddle. And they just started having a fight and shooting down there. He'd get up and shoot his and through the ceiling. Had to calm it all down.
Well,
And the old fellow was old, but he, look out, he'd fight you. He always carried his gun on his side.
Okay, where did they have these parties? Where was that?
3 places. Name it. She knows them. Blue
I
Heaven.
remember this. They used to have old time realm things. What kind of? I can't think of the name of the dance. They hold hands.
Like square dances or something?
Yeah, something like. And the Kesslers always had them. And different neighbors.
There was 3 dance halls. One down there at the Blue Heaven, Limberlost. What was the other up next to Salem?
Yeah, there was 2.
Short Bend, maybe?
But no, Lord, no.
So up there,
We
he had
never
this side of
followed
Salem, that building on that curve.
Yeah.
Lone
Yeah.
Star.
Lone
But,
Star.
I remember I always said to Dad, well, Dad, what's so wrong about dancing? And he said, it isn't the dance, it's what it leads to. It's like drinking and carrying on.
I had a guy there that went to school with Frank Stotler. He only weighed about
Why'd you slip off and go to
he only weighed about 160 pounds.
uh,
But getting a fight, he'd be in. He could 8 or 10. He'd hit you and kick you at the same time. They just all laying on the ground. Him and Uncle Ed was good friends.
yeah.
Well, but there wasn't, except for the occasional bully like that one you mentioned a while ago, there wasn't much trouble around Sligo, was there? Do you recall there being any crime, really?
If there was, I didn't know nothing about it. I will tell you one thing that happened. Oh, we had programs at school, and even Dad and Mom took part in one. They'd have a program, and then they'd have pie supper. We had a lot of pie supper to raise money for the school. But we had this program, and Mom and Dad both was in it. It's a Do Funny family. A Do Funny family. Remember that? Huh? Yeah. And they had a wall built up, and they were all dressed up silly.
Yeah.
And was sang. And then they had their shoes on their feet, on their hands. I can just see that. Yes, that was the name of it. And I don't remember the song. Oh, the place is roared. They got everybody life course, not too much going on, you know.
You mentioned a wall, and a while ago you mentioned that rock wall that is in Sligo. Do you remember when that was built, or when they were building it, or was that something that was always
You
there?
mean that rock wall?
Yes.
Oh,
It was pretty
I
much
think that was just built as they cleaned off.
right.
Yeah. Well, you know who sold that land to Sligo?
Oh yeah. Your grandpa.
Our great.
Well, it's your great grandpa. Do you remember anything about the workings of the Sligo Furnace Company?
Yes, I remember when they blasted off.
And what did that involve?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly how often, but people went down there and you could see it. It'd come out and run in a trough.
That's right. When they bleed off the iron into the
Yeah.
pigs, that was something people were interested
Yeah.
in.
And then I don't know how soon they put it into bricks.
Well, probably real quick. It
Yeah.
hardened real fast.
But I remember seeing it. That was dangerous. You didn't go, they didn't let too many people in there to see that.
What's that, thunder?
Fireworks.
It is New Year's Eve.
Now that last Blue Heaven thing down next to last bridge was Blue Heaven.
Uh-huh.
They had a woman down there, Pitts woman, named Oprah Pitts. She go down there, and if there's trouble with the men, she could whip them all. She'd get in there and clean house. She kept that place clean.
Who?
Oprah Pitts.
She built that rock house
She
Yeah.
built that rock
that
house.
used to be over there.
She weighed about 170, 80. She could whip
What
them
you
all.
drink? I haven't always known all of this, but I don't know. I guess it was for me to pass it on.
I would say.
That when our ancestors came over here in 1817, and I had often wondered, well, why did they got off, the first landed in North Carolina, and from North Carolina to Tennessee, and from Tennessee to the land in Sligo.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I've had a chance to run that down, and this lady had this big book of Dent County. Everybody that came to Dent County,
Mhm.
you'd be surprised. There's so much more I could tell you, but
Some other time we'll do this again. Just think on that stuff. sometime in the future we will do it again.
It hadn't been too far back. You go to Sligo and buy all the ground you want for $300 or $400 an acre.
I
Yeah.
know that.
When we lived.
Now it's out of sight.